guys, Lady Lee here. I'm out in the field at the farm today and I'm about to plant some garlic and onions. I have a video on the channel about growing garlic and I will link to it below. But I'm gonna try to do something a little different today. So wanted to take you with me. Shayla, come here. Wanted to take you with me and show you what I'm doing. I actually have no clue if it's gonna work or if it's not gonna work. This is the first time that I am doing it. I have another video on the channel about this little garden plot here that I set up and how I set it up and how my rows are and everything. I have about five rows in here that are 20 inches wide by 30 feet long, and one of them has my asparagus. Last year or last season I planted melons and watermelons here, and my thought was that they have so much more room here to spread because at the house, I live right across the road. I have my main garden plot over there, but it is just, you know, more tight and there's not enough room for plants to kind of spread. So I planted my watermelon and cantaloupes over here thinking they'll have more room to spread and grow, and they did, but the problem is that the deer found them and I harvested absolutely nothing from this spot. So I was thinking what to do with this place for next season and came up with the idea of trying to plant my garlic and onions over here, since deer and other pests and, you know, rabbits and stuff like that, they generally don't like garlic and onions. So I'm hoping that me planting them here means that I won't have anybody bothering them and they'll be able to grow. I have a really good well-drained soil here. My problem with that idea was that I'm not here every day. I'm not here, sometimes during the growing season, I'm not even here twice a week. You know, my main growing space is by the house across the road, and my animals are there, and you know, with goat babies coming in the spring and everything happening in the summer, sometimes it's hard for me to come work here. So what I came up with the idea of trying to use a weed barrier. And there are a couple of things you can do. You can do black mulch, which is a black plastic that covers your bed, or you can do this fabric, that weed fabric. And I decided to go with the weed fabric because it is breathable and rain can come down and soak the ground through it. It's not a plastic, so there is airflow and water flow. And I need that because I don't have any irrigation here. Now, we have enough rain in North Carolina, so it will not bother, not the onions and not the garlics. They like the soil kind of dry, so it won't bother them that I don't have any additional irrigation. But I did want to make sure that rain can kind of soak through and water the plants once in a while. So we are in the fall now. I am very late, not very late, but I usually plant at the middle of October, let the plants grow a little bit, a few inches, and then I leave them for the winter. They just halt, they don't grow anymore, and then in the next spring they'll start growing again. We are getting close to the middle of November, so I am going to try and plant them right now. I think we're still going to be okay. We have 70-degree days and it's pretty nice outside. They might not grow to where they need to be, but once spring comes they'll start growing and it will be okay. And I hope that the weed fabric will help me manage the weeds. So I have one more bed here behind me to cover with the weed barrier. I got it from Johnny's Selected Seeds. It comes in 100 feet roll and it is 4 feet wide, so they're overlapping a little bit in the walkways, and I am just putting it down with landscape staples or agriculture staples, which I'll show you in a minute how they look like, and then with just bricks. I'm just putting bricks all over to hold it to the ground. So let's do that, and then we'll plant some onions and garlics. Okay, so everything is covered except of this bed in the middle here, and this is my asparagus. So obviously I'm not going to cover it with the fabric because then it won't be able to grow. I'm going to get a couple of straw bales and just mulch it with straw. And then I have one bed over here and 3 more over there, which I will be planting with garlic and onions right now. Now, a couple of tips when it comes to this weed barrier. First of all, of course, lay it on a day that there's no wind. You know, as little airflow as you can get is better, because this is just flying around and it's really hard to lay it good if it's a windy day. Also, of course, I prepared my bed before I laid it down. I guess you probably can lay it over some weeds and it will kill the weeds, but I prefer to just go ahead and clean my beds from whatever was growing here and from whatever weeds I had. But if you want to add compost, then add it before you put the weed fabric. Then I marked my beds with the white string that I also got at Johnny's. Now, the next step, I guess, is to plant. And honestly, since I've never worked with this weed barrier, I have no clue what I'm going to do. So we're just going to have to try. I bought this 2.5 inch, I don't know what you call it. It's a cup drill or whatever, I'm not sure. But it's got these sharp teeth, and I'm thinking maybe I can just, you know, kind of wiggle it into the fabric and make a nice round cut. I'm not sure. We'll just have to try. The other option is just to cut an X with a box cutter, and then if that doesn't work, then I'll just, you know, cut a little hole with the scissors and then a nice X or something like that. And then my goal is that as the plant grows, I'll just make sure that it is coming out of the hole that I made, and the rest between the plants will be covered with the weed fabric. So this is what we're going to do now. Before I do that, I have to separate my garlic cloves. I saved all of my garlic from last year, from this. So we're in November. I harvested my garlic, I think, at the beginning of July of this year, and I did not use any of it. I saved all of it, just cured it and saved all of it. And now it's time to break the bulbs into cloves, and then we'll get to planting. Alright, so here's one of my garlic cloves from this year, and I'm just gonna break the paper around it and kind of break it into cloves. And each of these cloves will be a plant of its own. Here. So that's one clove, and that's another. Look how big they are. That's why I saved it. I had really good garlic this year, and honestly I cannot remember where I got the seed garlic the year before. But the nice thing about garlic is that once you grow enough, then you can really be self-sufficient when it comes to garlic. Each of these gigantic cloves have, or gigantic heads of garlic have, I don't know, maybe 10, 7 at least individual cloves, and you plant each clove, and each clove is going to become its own garlic head. So I'm going to keep working on separating them. Alright, and then I'm going to plant the pointy tip up and the flat part down, and I'll probably try to plant them about 3 inches deep. Okay? Okay, so I think that I found some sort of a system. I will say that it's very time consuming, so maybe I'll find a better way later, but probably that's what I'll do for now. So I like things straight, so I got this scrap leftover 2x4, and I'm spacing my garlics about 4 inches from each other. I'm going to do 3 rows in this 20-inch bed, so 3 inches or so from the edges, and then about 4 inches between each other. I marked it here, and then I'm lining this end of the 2x4 with the string, and I'm just kind of pressing this down, the drill cup. That's the hard part. Just pressing it and turning it to make the mark. Alright, now I can remove this and turn it until it makes a hole in the fabric. And it's not always cutting it all the way, so I have to come by with the scissors and cut the hole just like that. Now my hope is that this landscape weed fabric will last maybe 2-3 seasons, so hopefully I'll be able to plant again with this same fabric next year, and I won't need to do this. So I'm just going to put the garlic clove in. And now one thing I learned with planting garlic is that you leave it uncovered, leave the holes uncovered until you are done, because sometimes you cover them and then you're not sure if there's a garlic clove in there or not. So I'm just gonna leave it, and then I'll come back when I'm done and cover it with soil that I'll take from under here. Alright guys, so the circular holes, see, it looks really nice and all, but it's really time consuming, and it's painful on my wrist. I even tried to use the drill, but the drill just catches the fabric and pulls it, which is, it's not working, and it's really time consuming. So I'm doing the onions now in this bed, and I'm using the box cutters instead, and it's so much better. It's much easier and it's much better. So when I have this opening, then I can just come by with my little trowel and dig in here, put my onion, and it will come up from here. And even if it's big and I have to make this a little bigger, then it's just easier to come by later in the season with the cutters and just make it a little bigger. So I think this will work much better. it's also keeping the soil completely covered. So imagine the plant will come up from here, but then those little flaps are still kind of staying around the bottom. So I hope this will work, but I will do a couple more videos about this garden, you know, once the plants start growing, and we'll see how it's working. So hopefully it will work well. But the box cutters, I've learned, is a much better option when you use weed barrier fabric. All right, you guys, I have a whole lot more work to do in here. I thought it will go a little faster, but it's not. No matter what kind of system you're using or choosing to use, it is a little bit time consuming. Much more time consuming than when I just plant the onion sets or the garlic cloves right in the ground. But my hope is that once, you know, spring and summer comes around, then it will save me a whole lot of time weeding. Onions and garlic tops are very thin. They're not becoming bushy or shade the ground in any way. So there's a lot of weeding to do around onions and garlics, and I hope that this will help me manage it a little easier. And then I also hope that I will be able to just leave it here for a couple of seasons and use it again, and it will be much faster next time because everything is already cut. So we'll see what happens. I hope that you learned something. You know, this is all experimental for me, so maybe you learn from my mistakes and not make the same ones again, which will be awesome. Anyway, I will get back to work, and please subscribe and like this video, and I will see you again in the next one. Bye.